Eddie Murphy is a Detroit cop on vacation in Beverly Hills.
I just got off the phone with an Inspector Todd in Detroit. He says if you're out here investigating the Tandino murder, you needn't bother coming back.
Hey, it's 1984 again. Today on the SuperCaZt, summer cinema continues as we look at Beverly Hills Cop, starring Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley. See what happens when this Detroit cop heads to Beverly Hills in this 1984 classic. Today on the SuperCaZt.
Welcome back to the SuperCaZt. I'm your host, the man who put the super in SuperCaZt, the Super Foch, and with me as always is my good buddy Steve Z, the man who put the Z in SuperCaZt.
How's it going, folks?
And today we are talking about an 80s comedy classic from a pretty big powerhouse in comedy for quite a long time now, and that's Eddie Murphy, and we're of course talking about Beverly Hills Cop. But before we do that, we ask one little thing. We ask that if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us out a lot, and we just love to hear from you guys and give us suggestions or whatever. We're also on Twitter at SuperCaZt, so please join us there as well and let us know what you think. And as always, we thank you for your support. And let's get it going, man.
Yeah, let's get it going. And starting off with Beverly Hills Cop, this is a film that I just as I get older, I like it more. It was a film that I watched a lot on TV back in the day, and I didn't really own it until really about a year ago. I got it on Blu-ray, the whole trilogy, and but it's a lot like you hear me talk about Teen Wolf a lot. It's a film that I just go to this. It's a Tuesday. I want to watch something light. Here we go. That's how Beverly Hills Cop is for me, just because it's a little bit lighter tone. Yeah. It has nostalgia attached to it, and it's got a dynamite performance by just a man at the peak of his powers. Yeah. Try to say that 3 times fast. Peak of his powers. But yeah, Eddie is the star of this film. Yeah. Anybody that says differently than that, did you watch the movie?
Exactly.
Yeah, but this film, I'm ready to get into it. What's your sort of history with this film?
Well, my history is probably not as extensive as yours. I've seen it on TV a couple times, and being an Eddie Murphy fan, I mean, I've probably watched the entire film, just different times, different parts, but it's still great. And watching it to prepare for this episode, you're just reminded of, what this guy just brought to the table. This is early on in his career, but yeah, I think he makes his name for himself really with this role. I can't imagine, I really can't imagine anybody else doing this part this good. No, and that I mean back then and now.
No, it'd be a totally different movie. Like, you can't take him out of it because he is basically the whole film. Like, it doesn't work without him. Because I know you've probably heard about it, the alternate castings, the things that they were going to do. I mean, we had Sylvester Stallone. Mickey Rourke was the guy until like 2 weeks before filming, and then he pulls out, and then they end up having Eddie. And Eddie's just like, okay, so you guys have a very interesting script here. Because basically what they did was they took a bunch of pieces of scripts, and they're just trying to work out how this film should go. And luckily, Eddie is just a wild man at this point. He's the funniest guy on the planet, where he could just go out there, not even try to be funny, and just create something that's insane. And that pretty much makes this film. I think if you take him out of it, you substitute anybody else, like you're saying, past, present, future, it's just a totally different movie.
Morning, officers. What y'all, the second team?
We're the first team.
Yeah, we're not gonna fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe. See, that's more natural for us. You've been hanging out with this dude too long. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody else playing this role. I mean, obviously you mentioned Sylvester Stallone and Mickey Rourke, and like I said, it'd be a totally different film. And don't get me wrong, those guys are fine actors in their own right, but this film needed somebody like Eddie Murphy, in my opinion. I think that, you know, it starts out and he's just perfect for this role, and you see him on screen and he just steals this movie. I mean, there's some other good performances and we'll definitely get into them here in just a bit, but I think we'd be remiss if we just didn't give Eddie Murphy his due, and we probably won't even, you know, give him enough in this episode because of how great he is. And like I said, I think this film really put him on the map as far as a leading actor, you know, and this being early in his career, I mean, it was a really good start for him, and yeah, just a really fun movie.
Yeah, and you're totally right. Like, he had done other films, very big films prior to this, like 48 Hours, Trading Places, but on those, he's a duo. He's starring alongside someone. And yeah, he'd been the star of SNL, but I mean, there's a huge difference between SNL and carrying a movie like this. Yeah. So this is one of those, I'm glad it happened out the way it did. Turning down Ghostbusters for this film. Yeah. Great career move there, Eddie. I really like it. Even though he would have added a lot to Ghostbusters, I think that's just something that we got the best alternate of history here.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, the only time that works out sometimes. But yeah, so this film, it starts off sort of like an action film. And even at the start, though, we are getting into sort of like you're saying, the charisma of Eddie. You're seeing him as this fast-talking Axel Foley. He's a detective, just supposed to be implied that he just started out as a cop. Yeah. Probably has a checkered past or something, or at least people think he does. And he's doing this drug deal for this whole, I guess, a bunch of smuggled cigarettes. And what do you think about his intro as a character?
I love his intro. I mean, you know exactly what type of character he is from the get-go. I mean, there's no, you know, easing into this. I mean, it's just like, bam, right there. And I think for a film like this, that's the way to go. You know, you don't need to drag anything out. You just need to get to it and kind of introduce, because this character is, as you said, undercover. So he's kind of playing a part, if you will. Yeah, I mean, it's just great. And again, this is Eddie Murphy's film. And if you had any question beforehand, this first scene kind of tells you, yep, you're watching Eddie Murphy, so buckle up.
Yeah, and you made a great point there about how he's always playing parts. I mean, that's the cool thing about this film, is he gets to bring in some of that improv, some of that SNL stuff, because as he's investigating this murder that eventually transpires, he gets to try out a bunch of different parts that'll allow him to get more information. That if he just goes in there, I'm Axel F., I'm a cop, he's not going to get those answers. But if he comes in as the Rolling Stone guy here to interview Michael Jackson, then he's going to get that hotel room, even though he shouldn't get that. So
I would, man, but I ain't from Detroit, you know, and I don't know nobody in town that can handle a job this big, but y'all supposed to got all the connections, you know. Tell me something, shit. I'm a businessman. I'm gonna sit down, do what you want to do.
You're right, it ain't easy to get rid of this shit.
I know, but see, I'm a businessman, you know. This is my thing. I'm doing business here.
Yeah, it's just great to see him be able to create these characters and embody them. They're all different. They're all bring out a different aspect of him. But this early part of the film, it just, I don't know, it seems like it's a different film. Doesn't it to you, the first like 15, 20 minutes while they're in Detroit?
Yeah, it does, really. I mean, it's a cool intro, and I love the way this movie starts. But you make a good point there. There does seem to be a tonal shift in this film. You know, and what's your thoughts on that? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's very effective. So I'm gonna start with that. I think they set up this sort of, I'm gonna say, sort of tonally they don't match. You have the streets of Detroit, poverty, people just doing drugs. I mean, yes, you have people doing their lives and everything, but it's supposed to look run down. It's supposed to look terrible. But what do we got playing? We got Kenny Loggins. The heat is on. So those two things don't really match too well to me. I mean, I think they covered up a little bit of the editing as they're matching shots and stuff. But to me, once they hit Beverly Hills and you get that Patti LaBelle song coming in, Stir It Up, that's when the movie starts really for me. That's when it starts feeling like Beverly Hills Cop. I think it's pretty cool that it actually does that because you need some stakes. It's a very lighthearted comedy. Yes, Axel never really gets in that much danger in the film, but you need sort of something to establish. Why is he like going here on vacation to Beverly Hills? It's got to be something grim, like a murder. That's the only motivation you'd have. So, I don't know. The tonally, the shift, it makes sense to me why they would do it, and it also could probably go to the production a little bit. Like, I mean, if you're you're shooting stuff, doing scatting out scenes for, let's say, Sylvester Stallone as Cobretti or something. You might include more of this Detroit stuff.
Right. I really think, and I agree with you. I think that getting to Beverly Hills is obviously the beginning of the film. That's where you're, but you have to intro this guy, so you kind of have to see where he comes from to kind of figure out how he's going to be when he goes to a totally different place. Because there's a lot of difference between Beverly Hills and Detroit. I mean, there's not a lot of comparable stuff there. So I thought that was an interesting way to introduce the character in his own kind of world, so to speak, and then to go to California like that. And
I'm pretty sure you like that truck chase too.
Yes. Oh yes. I was gonna get to that. I love the way this movie starts. I mean, is it kind of a different thing? But it's part of the movie. It serves its purpose, and I think it's done well, as you said.
Yeah. So getting back to the story a little bit. Yeah. So Axel's best friend, who's been in jail, shows up, and he's got all these bonds all of a sudden. This part is so minor critique, but as I was about to compliment when you were talking about it earlier, sort of the tightness of this film. I mean, it's only like 90 minutes to 100 minutes or so. It doesn't mess around. But this is one part where they probably could have, let it breathe a little bit, because he just shows up and he's like, first 10 seconds, he's like, been out of jail. Hey, check out these illegal bonds here. They're cool. How do you think about that? I mean, that's not something I would do the first 10 seconds I'm seeing a friend for the first time in years. But that aside, his best friend, Axel's best friend, gets killed. So he has to go on the case. But he has to do it sort of covertly, because he's already in it with his superior. He's been messing around. He's been Axel, just had this huge damage at the beginning of the film. It's bad. He's on thin ice. And he's not supposed to really go investigate murders out of his jurisdiction. So guess what? He's going to go on vacation. So this is where the movie starts. And I love this first scene when he gets there and he's got to get into the hotel. What do you think about Eddie just showing off right here?
It's just classic Eddie. I mean,
Don't you think I realize
he steals the scenes.
Who do you think I am, huh? Don't you think I know that if I was some hotshot from out of town that pulled inside here, and you guys made a reservation mistake, I'd be the first one to get a room, and I'd be upstairs relaxing right now. But I'm not some hotshot from out of town. I'm a small reporter from Rolling Stone magazine that's in town to do an exclusive interview with Michael Jackson that's going to be picked up by every major magazine in the country. I was going to call the article, Michael Jackson is sitting on top of the world, but now I think I might as well just call it, Michael Jackson can sit on top of the world just as long as he doesn't sit in the Beverly Palm Hotel.
One thing that really got me is the whole Michael Jackson thing. That was just hilarious. So
yeah, that's classic. That's classic, like you were saying, classic Eddie.
Yeah, exactly.
But as he's going in here, he's investigating all this stuff. We got to get into these other characters a little bit. So, starts off the main villain, if you will. And I guess it's worth saying that we kind of know the whole mystery is solved the first 25, 30 minutes of the film. Like, we know Victor Malin, played by Steven Berkoff, is the villain. He's responsible for Mikey's death.
Yep.
And it's still pretty fun to watch this film, you know? It's sort of like we were talking about Vertigo. Even though the twist is already done, let's just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
What do you think about that choice?
Because it's a comedy, I think it's the smart thing to do. I mean, you're not coming to an Eddie Murphy film to, you know, be inspired or, you know, to have you're going there to laugh. You're going there to be entertained. And I think that's the point of the film. I mean, yes, the plot's there, but it's not the probably best part of the film. I think, obviously the best part's Eddie and what he does. But all the interactions between the characters, because there's a lot of, you know, good characters in here, and we'll touch on them here in a second. But to me, that's what's important about this film, is not so much the plot or even, you know, the solved case, because, you know, we talked about Shot in the Dark episode, and it's kind of like that, you know, it's like, yeah, there's a plot there of a murder, but it's like, that's not the important thing is the comedy. And I think the same thing here is that you've got a good story, and it's a fine story. You know, I can't really say anything bad about the plot itself. I'll give the floor to you in a second to rebuttal that. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, it is what it is. But this movie is hilarious, so that's the point. So that's my story.
Yeah, there's no rebuttal here. You kind of said the main thing here, that it is not about the plot. I mean, Victor Malin, I mean, Steven Berkoff, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
He plays a good villain. I don't care about the villain in this film. He's just kind of there. Yeah. I care about watching Eddie just go around and do his thing.
Right.
So, yeah, the plot's probably the weakest part of the whole movie to me, just because it is about that experience. It's about going for the ride, solving this mystery. Granted, this mystery, to me, it's secondary. It's almost like Hitchcock always talked about the MacGuffin, how it's just secondary. What really cares about this drama that's taking place, and in this case, it's the comedy that's taking place. But also, to me, it's the characters. I think this script has good characters, and the actors really bring them to life, and that's what brings me back. The actual plot, I kind of forget about it. All this stuff about smuggling, all this stuff about you have drugs, Victor Malin, all that stuff. I don't really care. To me, I care about Axel, I care about Billy, I care about the random side characters too, like Serge and the guy with the bananas, all that stuff. It's what makes this movie interesting to me and what makes it fun to watch, because it's not about the plot. And I love that you said it's a lot about the characters, because there are other great characters in this film. Exactly. To me, the ones that jump to my mind, it's got to be John Ashton as Taggart and Judge Reinhold as Billy Rosewood. And those Rosewood and Taggart, those pairing. Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's one of the best parts of the film.
I love it. I mean, like Judge Reinhold, I was watching this, rewatching this the other day, and you know, I just love Judge Reinhold. I love, because he's kind of always this same kind of goofy guy in everything he does, but he does it so well. So, I mean, you know, if you do something good, stick with it. And I think he does this kind of goofy character pretty good. I mean, we've talked about him in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then, you know, other stuff, but this movie's he does a really interesting performance here, and I just love it. I just, you know, very entertaining guy.
Yeah, I think he's really good in it, and I love his chemistry with Ashton, like I said, because they're complete opposites. I mean, this guy's going to be the gruff, I'm always irritated guy. This guy's like, hey, we're just trying to do our best here, you know? Yep. And I guess that's good casting, even though I really wouldn't see Judge being a cop, you know? I mean, that sounds kind of weird, Judge as a cop. But this is, it's just seems like a weird thing that kind of works. And
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
And I know these were two guys that ad-libbed a lot with Eddie.
Yeah.
In scenes with Eddie, but also in scenes together. Like I saw this one part where in the script it just said you got to get up the wall. So they're like, get up the wall. So they just this random skit where they're just trying to get him up on his shoulders, trying to boost him up, all this stuff.
Right.
And what do we have? We have comedy, and that's kind of the cool thing about this film. It has this little loose feel at it at times, where the cast, a lot of them are probably having a lot of fun with it, but some of them I could see how this would be kind of nerve-wracking.
I mean, improv's not for everybody, and it can go several different ways with that. But I trust people like Eddie. Like if I was working with Eddie, I'd trust him to, kind of guide the ship, as it were. And so I would have had fun with it myself, but I can also understand, if you're not used to that kind of work and, improv, because it's not easy. Improving is not an easy thing. And to make it, make sense, whatever. So I could see where it'd be difficult for some people, but I think it works great in this film.
Yeah, I think
obviously.
Ronnie Cox in particular, he's the one that had the most trouble because he's like a straight-laced actor. He memorizes his lines. They said he had a hard time with this one because they bring in new pages of script like 30 minutes before they shoot. They're like, here you go, memorize this real fast.
Yeah.
But still, I wouldn't tell by looking at it, even though when I do rewatch this film, I do see them kind of cracking up at times. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's saying that.
Yeah.
Because I guess that would be sort of the danger if you were working with somebody like Eddie, is he just kind of takes it to left field all of a sudden, and this seemingly interesting joke turns into an amazing, legendary joke.
Yeah.
But it's pretty awesome, those guys. And I just mentioned Ronnie Cox as Bogomil. Got to have this in a 80s action film. You got to have that superior inspector that's always getting on everybody. He's pretty good about it. I do want to talk about one thing, because we've been kind of saying how awesome this movie's and stuff, but there is one aspect of this film that doesn't work for me as well. I'm gonna see what your thoughts are on it. It's Lisa Eilbacher as Jenny.
Yeah, I did yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't really like her that much.
Well, it's not I didn't like her. It's she didn't really leave much of an impression. I mean, I guess that's what it is. She's in this scene. She's Axel's best friend. She runs this art gallery. She's the connection to the villain. But just like, what is she other than that? She just seems like she's just here for the plot to happen. She's just here to be that damsel to be kind of rescued at the end of the film. But other than that, it's like, who is Jenny? Yeah. And I don't know if that's the actress. I don't know if that's just part of the script they didn't really put in here. She's definitely a weak part of that. But going back to your point earlier, where you were just like, we're just here to laugh. Yeah. Maybe that's the thing. Just you're thinking about too much. Yeah, I mean, and that's why we have this show, because we can talk about things as long as we want. But that's the thing. I'm glad you brought this character up, because excuse me, getting over a cold, guys. I was wondering about this character, because it felt like this character was going somewhere but never did. It felt like there was something missing or something was omitted. I don't know what. But she had a cool car. She did indeed. She had a cool car, and I guess that'd be pretty much a dream job.
Hey, there you go.
LA art gallery, show off some stuff.
Heck yeah.
And I got to get into him now. Serge Pinchot, I can't ever say his name right. Brinson Pinchot as Serge. I mean, that dude is just the best two-scene guy ever, I would say.
Man, he can take anything and just make it gold. I loved him in this. I loved him on screen, and I just wanted more of him. You know what I mean? Like, he's just so entertaining. So,
yeah, I don't know if I do want more of him. I'm afraid if he becomes an integral part of the plot, then I'm like, okay, so Serge is just kind of going along this ride too. Yeah. But I think just having him in these scenes, like, oh yeah, I sold this. I don't know. It's a very good voice.
Oh
And then
yeah.
eventually it becomes Balky pretty much, but I think he's just really funny, and I think Eddie seemed like he had a lot of fun playing these scenes with him.
That's the thing too, is you know, when two guys that have good comedic timing work together, oh, it's just like magic. You know what I mean? And you know, and it's not that Bronson tries to steal any thunder or anything like that, but yeah, I thought he was really funny. So
Yeah, and I guess you just brought up another good point, is showing you how sort of secure Eddie is. I mean, he's only like 24 when he made this film, but he's willing in a scene to let somebody be funnier than him.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of a big thing, because you think most comedians would be kind of, you know, just kind of self-conscious, and they're like, oh, I got to be the funniest guy at all the times.
I'm fine. My name is Serge, and how can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Miss Jenny Summers. My name's Axel Foley.
And what is pertaining?
I didn't understand what you said.
Pertaining, what it's meaning, regarding.
Oh, what's it regarding? I'm an old acquaintance of hers.
Danae, one moment. Don't run and tell me, Summers, that Mr. Ahmed Foley is here to see.
Axel Foley. Axel.
Axel. Foley is here to see her. He's our old acquaintance.
Going into his performance yet again, it doesn't seem like he's trying that hard to be funny. He just is funny.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, some comedians can do that. Some comedians can just, you know, say a word or two and they're just hilarious just by their delivery. And I think Eddie Murphy's one of these people. And that's so crazy, because you said he was, what, 24 when he made this film?
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to believe, because he's so good. And to film a movie like this, a big movie with action and comedy, I mean, that's a lot to put on his shoulders early in his career. And I think he showed a lot of people, myself included, obviously, of how great he can be. And, you know, he plays off really well. Really with anybody. I mean, he makes these guys that he works with look really good in this movie. And I think that's a good thing about him too, is that he doesn't just try to overshadow everybody in the scene. And he's very, you know, and obviously that's written probably that way as well. But yeah, to be that young and to have the timing and everything, awesome.
Yeah. And you kind of got me into like my favorite scene of the whole movie, is where he is playing with off these other actors and just the way the characters are written. Because Rosewood and Taggart, they had already had their little, they lost him at one point, and now he's like, hey guys, just go with me, let's go to the strip club, it'll be cool. And just seeing like sort of how he's having the time of his life.
Right.
Billy is like all nervous, he's like, we're on duty, we're not supposed to be here. And then Taggart's just looking around, he's like, okay, what are we doing here? This is a waste of my time. Just seeing how these different characters interact with each other in this scenario. That's brilliant writing. That's different. I mean, brilliant acting. It's what makes this film work. And I love how that segment just moves into like them showing action for the first time. They join forces. They disarm these robbers. And then we get the best monologue. I'm not going to say of all films, but it's in the top Mount Rushmore, let's say, of like comedic speeches, monologues. It's got to be there.
Because they saw two suspicious-looking gentlemen with bulges in their jackets going into the place. Well, it turns out that these guys were going to commit a robbery, sir. These men watched them, waited for them to make their move, and then they foiled the crime. I did not know what was going on. I was watching the show having fun. I'm still freaked out by it. You must have a sixth sense. I don't know what you teach these fellows, but they're not just regular cops, okay? They're super cops. And the only thing missing on these guys are capes.
Is this what really happened?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, it's hilarious. I was trying to think of one part of it that I thought was really funny. My brain's dead again, man. No, But yeah, it's really funny, and uh, yeah. Anyway,
You're gonna go.
something I want to talk about though, and I know we were probably going to get to it, but I'm ready for it now, and that is the music of this film.
Oh yeah.
I adore the music of this film. It is classic 80s. From the theme song, the do 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 that, and of course we mentioned the heat is on. It's not the 80s without Kenny Loggins, and he did some really cool movies back in the day, with Top Gun and stuff like that. But I think this is some of his best work in this film. What did you think about the music?
I really like it. Like pretty much ever since I recommended this film, I've been listening to the soundtrack. I really like it a lot. To me, I already mentioned Patti LaBelle, Stir It Up. That one's great. But to me, the Pointer Sisters, that Neutron dance, that one is really good. I love the synth work in that one. And that's the thing that stands out to me about the soundtrack here. Just the score. I always forget his name. It's the guy does Top Gun. You mentioned that. He does the soundtrack for it. But he's just a synth wizard. And this is the kind of stuff you needed in the 80s. You needed somebody like this that could make the film kind of hold together. Because if you take out that music, let's say he's just driving around to like beat bop, it doesn't work. But if you put on the Axel F, he's grooving along.
It's iconic.
Yeah, we're ready to go on this mystery with you, buddy. Let's go hang out in LA. And it really captures the sort of spirit of the film, but also just this era in history. Like, you listen to this music and you're like, oh, that's 1984. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think that this is a very good representation of especially the mid-'80s. And it's just so iconic, like I said, and you recognize that music as soon as you hear it. Even if you've never seen this film, I guarantee you know this music. You've probably heard any of these songs, really, on the radio or whatever. But it's one of my favorite parts about this film is the music, because I think you can't have the comedy and not the music. I think that they help each other and make this film what it is. I mean, people are still talking about it. It did spawn 2 sequels that I know of. Only 2 more, right?
Yeah, 2. I think they're making a 4th one right now. But
oh, really?
That could go either way. I mean, you just know how that is.
Oh my goodness. So,
to me, this one is great. It's very light film, but I think at the same time, we were getting into it earlier. It's a big important film for Eddie Murphy, and it's because things are kind of like changing in the 80s, and I don't want to get into the whole civil rights thing or anything like that, but this is pretty big. This is 20 years removed from In the Heat of the Night, which was like a film very much like this. And this one, the racism aspect is not a central part of the film. It's just a fun comedy, but not in like, hey, let's gloss over this whole aspect. It's more like, look at where we are now. Yes, there's some stuff in here that's not great, such as when he gets thrown out a window and then gets arrested after that, which I don't think that would happen to you or me. We'd probably
not.
And the way he plays that, because we all know, we're all thinking it while we're watching him, like, oh, he's a black man. He just got thrown out a window by these guys, and now he's getting arrested. What the heck? But I'm like, the way he plays that off, and the way he's very serious about it, but he's not over the top, as a lot of people would be in this situation. So I think he's definitely shown maturity beyond his years. Being said, I think it's a very important film. I think it kind of is also a very fun blockbuster as well. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's fun from the beginning. It doesn't let up. I thought the pacing of this film was just perfect too. I mean, there's not a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of, long-winded scenes or anything like that. And I appreciated that for this film, because I don't think you should drag a film out like this. I think it's got to be, fast-paced, and it's got to be, scene to scene. Having said that, I do think that, the timing of every scene, the structure, the music, all that really fits together with this. Any critiques or anything that you, because we do want to be fair, is there anything glaring for you that you didn't like or whatever?
I mean, we already mentioned Jenny, but I guess it all stems from the fact that this script, it really isn't that good. Even though I think it was nominated for an Oscar, I don't think it's a very good script. You can tell this movie just was kind of spliced together, and in typical 80s cocaine fashion, it just kind of works. They just kind of do it, and I think it's because Eddie's doing the heavy lifting here. He's the one that's kind of making this stuff fun. That, like we were saying at the very top of the show, if it was a different actor, it wouldn't be as much fun. It wouldn't be a good ride. We probably would turn it off.
Right, and I think that's the thing. I think when you got a guy like Eddie Murphy in his prime, he is obviously one of the funniest men ever. As we said, I can't imagine another actor from today or in the past that could really embody what this character, who this character is. To come from Detroit, come from a dirty, kind of rough part of the country over to sunny California. I mean, you know, Beverly Hillbillies did that, and you see how that turned out. So, but Eddie Murphy was just perfect, and you know, is this his best work? That's arguable, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty good though.
Yeah, I think it's up there. I think it's definitely up there. I think when you think of Eddie Murphy, you should probably put this film pretty close to the top for him.
Yeah, definitely the biggest of his career to this point. And if you guys haven't seen it in a while, or if you want to see it for the first time, go check it down. It's pretty easy to find. It's streaming at all platforms. I think Paramount Plus always has it on there. If you got that, they also have Blu-rays of any format, but also 4K. So easy to find movie. Probably go find it.
On the next episode, Jurassic Park.
The next film we're getting into, it's going to be great. It's a film that just turned 30, and to me, when I think of summer, I think of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, obviously that film sparked a franchise but we're going to talk about the one that started it all, obviously the best one. So join us.
Coming this Friday to the SuperCaZt.
Again, if you guys haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do, as well as our socials. And let us know what you think about Beverly Hills Cop. And if you have any other suggestions for comedies, because we love to talk about comedies, as you can tell. If there's a comedy we haven't done and you'd like us to talk about it, let us know in the comments, because we love suggestions and we would appreciate it. Steve, this was fun. I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed talking to you about it. We will see everybody next time on the SuperCaZt.